back in the day, there'd be a number of warden bosses in there which would drop tier tokens appropriate for the current tier, as well as PvP gear. Each new tier that opened, there'd be a new warden added, and they'd drop additional appropriate gear. And then finally, patch 3.3.5, Ruby Sanctum, which had some absolutely insane loot, but no other change.
I never did it. I never did this raid. I played WoW, I just didn't do this.
Just toggle heroic.
I didn't care.
Go kill some dragons. Woohoo, very cool. That's Wrath the Lich King raiding then. Looking forwards to it, but it makes you wonder. Blizzard have historically really liked leaving everything on the last patch 4 Classic because it's easier to understand than having patch by patch changes. It is the final version, and it will reflect the best, and even as they have said, the most complete version of the game as it was back then. It's a question, and a big one, to put to Blizzard. Are you going to leave it in what retrospectively became known as learning points during the expansion, or are we going to have a bit of a different experience the second time around? Oh, and before that, they won't change anything comments. Both copying Wrath of the Lich King's schedule involves changing something every single patch, and changing something also involves changing something. So it's just a question of which one will...
At this point, we should know that, like, there's nothing wrong with some changes, at least with Classic Route and all that shit, right? But, like, as long as they make sense in regards to, like, the experience of it, right?
Work better. Personally, I reckon they're going to put shared lockouts into Triumph Crusader and not change anything else from how it was at the time. Yeah. Maybe even that is too far though, and we're all desperate for that real 4 clears a week just to appreciate that raid and how good it was. That's about everything though. Let me know your thoughts on what you think they will do.
There it is.
Anything. And as always,
good video.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you on the next one. Very good.
There's the video. I will link it in the chat, boys. If you guys want to go give it a watch, a little like as well, leave a little comment on Willie's video. He's makes some very good videos. That was good, man. Man, I for one am very excited for Wrath for sure. I am a little bit of a Wrath baby, at least of what I remember, man. So, man, it would be fun to definitely play that. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Should we watch the Platinum Ball video? It's a good one. It's a good one. Okay, so Platinum Ball uploaded a video called "Everything You Need to Know About Dragons in World of Warcraft." All right, and I think we should give this a little whirl, boys. Okay, get your popcorns, get your tea, get your coffee, whatever you drink while you're cozy, and we'll watch this, guys. We'll watch this, okay?
More fantasy than dragons.
Oh!
You can't get more fantasy than dragons.
True.
And sometimes Warcraft is a fantasy universe. Dragons are some of the most powerful beings on Azeroth, who have an extremely in-depth lore that begins all the way back to the very foundation of the world. How did these magnificent beasts come to be? What is their purpose? And what exactly are they doing in the modern day? Sit back and let's learn everything you need to know about dragons.
Take your notes, guys. We're gonna learn something today. Today is gonna be a day for learning about dragons. The Titans.
Our story begins during the Ordering of Azeroth. The Titan Keepers waged war with the untamed elements on the planet and banished them to their respective elemental planes. But not all of the elements were imprisoned. Some of these rogue elements developed into the first ever proto-dragons.
I actually didn't know that. Okay.
The majority of the information we know about these ancient times comes from the novel Dawn of the Aspects. And in this book, there is easily one of the most horrifying and monstrous villains that has never really gotten the respect he deserves in-game.
Let's be honest, everybody wanted a proto-drake back in the day. This dragon he's about to talk about right now, I think it's called Gorgagrond, Gargalon, something like that. It's basically the biggest proto-drake of all time. I mean, he's gonna explain it. It's actually like really good lore. We'll listen to what he says about it. So yeah. Galakron, yeah. Like this is how big he would be.
The father of dragons was a monolithic beast that dwarfed the rest of his kind.
This is so sick.
One day, an unquenchable hunger dominated his body, and he suddenly began to terrorize the other dragons.
That's the...
He
Yeah.
performed the unthinkable and started to cannibalize the other proto-dragons. This had dramatic effects on his body, and he began to develop mutations like growing limbs and eyes all over his now decaying body. To put in perspective how big Galakrond was, his roar had the ability to cause devastating avalanches, and his wings were so large that the other dragons would mistake it for thunder.
Dude. It's like being in the gym, man.
Breath also had the ability to raise slain proto-dragons into undeath, which were called the Not Living, and their bite would infect other dragons who develop similar, unrelenting taste for dragon flesh, and they're literally zombie dragons. The Titan Keepers and their surviving proto-dragons teamed up to defeat this gargantuan beast. These heroes included the Titan Keeper Tyr, Malagos, Nozdormu, Neltharion, Ysera, and Alexstrasza.
They're not... What? They're prototypes.
During one of the battles, Tyr's hand was bitten clean off by Galakrond. The Titan Keeper would later get a new silver hand as a replacement. This glorious, heroic battle would become legend for the people of Azeroth, and Tyr's silver hand became the symbol for the Knights of the Silver Hand Paladins
Well, there it is.
thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. Galakrond would later be defeated by the team of proto-dragons when Malagos flew inside of Galakrond's mouth with a giant boulder and freezed it in his throat. Then Neltharion flew inside his mouth and blasted a zombie dragon down his throat to push the boulder in further. Because Galakrond has little tiny proto-dragon arms, they were just too small to perform CPR on himself, and he choked to death and died.
Wait, why don't you just swallow, though? I mean, okay. Is that how he died? Okay.
Yeah, kind of a crazy and strange death for the
Yeah.
biggest dragon in Warcraft history, huh?
You can find, yeah, okay. Dude, he's literally 5 steps ahead of me. I was about to say, you can find the remains of Galakrond all around, like, Dragonblight. Like, all these, like, little zones you see right here. It's like zones where they're trying to harvest the power of the remains.
What's on your mind?
Like, you see, like, a bunch of skelly boys and a bunch of, like, abominations around these zones trying to harvest the powers of the bones and stuff like that, you know?
The final resting place for the Father of Dragons can still be found in the frozen
Galakrond's
tundra
rest.
of Dragonblight. But the funny thing is, Galakrond has a bunch
Comics?
of more screen time in Hearthstone compared to World of Warcraft, but maybe we'll see that change in a future expansion.
I guess we will.
After displaying their awesome power, the Titan Keepers were impressed by the 5 proto-dragons that defeated Galakrond. The raw power of the Titans was infused into these 5 proto-dragons so that they could become the Power Ranger defenders of Azeroth and protect the planet from any future threats. All of the Keepers agreed to strengthen these proto-dragons, except for Odin, because he's kind of an asshole. But they did it anyways. Ionar, the Titan of Life, empowered Alexstrasza and Ysera to protect all living creatures.
What can I do?
So they were
Morganon,
originally...
the Titan of Magic, empowered Malagos to protect the powerful arcane that dwelled across Azeroth.
boss fight.
Amenthul, High Father of the Pantheon, empowered Nozdormu to guard the very fabric of time and space. And finally, Khaz'goroth, the Titan Shaper of Worlds, gave Neltharion the power over the earth and whatever dwelled beneath.
Deathwing.
With their powers combined, this council of beings called the Aspects became the first ever fully fledged dragons to ever grace Azeroth. And now it's their mission to be the world's eternal defenders.
Yep. I really like the
When the
the quality in the video is so good. Like, I really like the editing.
Granted this power,
It's
in
so
the
well
sky,
put together.
There was a rare celestial event called the Embrace, where Azeroth's two moons embraced one another. The only time a dragon can be transformed into an aspect is during this event, which only happens every 430 years.
That's very long.
Next, the Keepers help forge the dragons.
No, not 420, 430.
Sanctuary called Wimrest Temple. This giant tower would serve as a meeting place for all of the dragonflights and be the heart of dragon culture. One of the many parts of dragon culture is something called a Visage Day. Visage Day is when a dragon comes to age and they perform a ceremony atop the Wimrest Temple to choose their humanoid form. Dragons have the ability to transform into any of the races on Azeroth, and it's typically done so that they can spy on the mortal races across the planet to make sure they aren't doing anything nefarious.
Just like Onyxia did to Stormwind, but instead of doing good things, she became a treacherous B-word and went against the Alliance. The queen next to the king in Stormwind is actually not a human, it's Onyxia. Yeah, in human form. Sorry guys,
They just do it
it's
for
true.
practical reasons. And these dragons knew how to transform into these races before they even existed because, bronze dragonflight and time travel stuff, okay? But here's the thing. Dragons are not just limited to humanoid forms. They can turn into anything. And I mean anything.
Really?
There's this one part in the Dawn of the Aspects book where Alexstrasza just disguises herself as a giant-ass tree. Okay, now let's go through each of these dragonflights in more detail and talk about exactly what they do. Starting with the red dragonflight and the tree-transforming queen of dragons herself, Alexstrasza.
And the cycle of life is reborn anew.
The red dragonflight are the protectors of all life on Azeroth. This
I'll actually go up here. I'll go up here because you guys can see the text then.
means that they're the ones that deal with any dangerous, overwhelming threats on the planet. They also restore devastated lands and protect ancient artifacts. One of the special abilities they have is that their fiery breath can either bring horrible destruction or rejuvenating life. We can see the healing effects of the fire firsthand during the Wrathgate cinematic, where they scorched the Alliance commander, Bolvar Fordragon, with their healing flames. I mean, doesn't Bolvar look healed? Just ignore the—
Yeah, thank God he was saved, so he could be tortured and hanged up on, like, behind the Lich King's throne. Oh yeah, thank God, dude.
horrific charring all over his body, that seared his flesh beyond recognition. Look,
Such
he's healed,
rejuvenating
okay?
flames.
Trust me. To this day, the Red Dragonflight and their Dragon Queen continue to watch over all life on Azeroth and protect it from certain death.
Before battle, I always assure my forces that through the fire and the flames, we'll carry on.
Dude! Oh shoot!
Time may pass, but the dream is eternal.
The other dragons of life are called the Green Dragonflight, who you don't see very often when exploring Azeroth. That's because this dragonflight mainly resides within the ethereal plane known as the Emerald Dream. This plane of existence is one of flourishing life that represents the world of Azeroth if it was never altered by intelligent beings. One of the special abilities green dragons have is they got that melatonin dragon breath that has the ability to put their enemies to sleep. Green dragons try to avoid combat to the best of their ability and pacify their enemies rather than kill them. That being said, in the dream, the green dragonflight works alongside the druids to control the ebb and flow of nature and protect it from a horrifying presence.
Emerald Nightmare.
A sickening corruption called the Emerald Nightmare
Okay, I'm
constantly
gonna stop spoiling the video, guys. I feel like I keep doing it. I'm sorry.
festers throughout the dream.
You know what I mean, though,
This
right?
twisted dark magic alters life into a horrific mockery of itself and brings only madness and corruption. The origin of this dark power comes from the old gods and Xavius, the Nightmare Lord, who orchestrates the spreading of corruption across the dream. All of the hostile green dragons we see in-game from classic WoW to modern day have pretty much all been corrupted by the Nightmare. And even the aspect Ysera was cursed by the Nightmare, and in Legion, she was put down by the
we
player
fought her.
characters.
This was a big deal.
The Green Dragon aspect would return in the Shadowlands expansion in the Zone of Ardenweald, which is like the Emerald Dream, but for dead creatures. And she helps Tron to fight Sylvanas and stuff.
Man, Shadowlands lore, I'm so out of tune, man. I don't even know what's happening anymore, man. We got lethal Thanos running all over the place. We got, like, Sylvanas. I don't know what's happening. I kind of gave up. Oh. Oh, she said no one left.
I will teach you ignorant children just how little you know of magic.
The Blue Dragonflight, led by
Jesus.
Malygos, is an enclave of dragons committed to protecting the use of magic on Azeroth and making sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Malygos and his Blue Dragonflight went dormant for thousands and thousands of years after a major defeat I'll talk about later in this video during the War of the Ancients.
Okay.
And the dragon aspect was weakened, depressed, and a little bit insane. But then again,
That's a
who
bad combo. Weakened, depressed, and insane. That's a really bad trifecta to have. Jeez.
Malygos would fully regain his power and sanity during the events told in the comic book series
Sounds like me.
Shadowlands.
Oh, dude. Oh, God.
Collection of books with just some wonderful artwork, huh?
Oh.
In the series, Terragosa, one of the members of the Blue Dragonflight, brings some nether drakes to the Blue Dragonflight domain called the Nexus in hopes of balancing the magical energies inside of them. Instead, these nether dragons try and take over the Nexus, and then Malygos eats all of them, which then restores his sanity and his power.
How? Okay.
After spending 10,000 years dormant, Malygos realized that he really wasn't doing a good job of protecting the magic across Azeroth.
Yeah.
The puny mortals on the planet had been abusing the power he was supposed to protect, and had summoned the Burning Legion on Azeroth. Multiple
Why do you go to sleep for 10,000 years? If you're supposed to protect, you can't just go to sleep. I know you're sad, but like, you can't just sleep 10k years, bro. Like, hello?
times and fractured the world in the process.
That's why you got
Malygos
pissed.
acted swiftly and started to divert all of the magic across